Well, welcome to Computer Essentials here at Heartbeat Christian Academy. And I don't know if you can remember, but we are talking about general concepts. And we have had lesson 1, which is types of computers. I'm sure you can still remember the types of the computer. Then we've had lesson 2, which is the main parts of a PC. Now we're going to talk about hardware and software, and we're going to do the revision. So we will end off with the first section today. Quite exciting. Can't believe that it's been so fast and we've gone through the work so fast. And I hope that you are learning. I hope that you are growing and that you are getting to know your computer better and all your hardware and your software better. Just our banking details, if you want to support us or support our ministry, there's the banking details. And then once again, there's the contact details if you want to contact us. And before we carry on, I just want to show you something. I've just taken a laptop. This is a Samsung laptop, and I've opened the back by just removing the back cover. Some of them are pretty easy to remove, and I've removed the back cover just to show you the inside of the laptop. And they're not all exactly the same, but here you can see the random access memory. So you can see the RAM, the running memory, which is the memory that the programs run in. So if I take this chip out, I can take the chip out. That is a RAM chip. That is random access memory, and this one has 2 slots, so you can actually upgrade this. And so if you wanted to upgrade it, you would just put the RAM chip back in there, and then you would just pop it in like that and make sure that it's in. This is where your programs actually run on. So it doesn't store here. It's memory that's used and cleared every time your computer is shut down and restarted. This is the hard drive. So this is the hard drive. That's where the storage is. So you've got your storage drive, you've got your RAM. So you can actually see here with this computer, if you're looking at the hardware, you can see the RAM, you can see the hard drive. And if you open it up, you can actually see the keyboard where you type. You can see the mouse pad or the trackpad here with the left click and right click there, and you can see the screen. And if you really look well on the screen there on top, you can actually see the webcam as well. So you can actually see the webcam as well. So there's quite a lot of hardware visible on this particular laptop, but I just wanted to show you physically what that looks like. And throughout the course, I will show and tell to show you things, because I do believe that once you see something, you actually you will remember what it looks like. So I just need to check if I slotted that RAM chip in correctly, and it's 100% correct. And then we can carry on with today's lecture. Something interesting as well under the laptop, just before I put the cover back here, just want to show you that as well, is a sticker. You can see it's not anymore. You can see the sticker there. If you look at it, it's a serial number, but there's a sticker there which has the Windows product key on. So this one, for instance, has Windows 7 Home product key. So that's the operating system. So this hardware, this laptop here that we've got here with the RAM, with the hard drive, with the processor, everything, and the battery and all the other hardware peripherals that we can physically see and touch, is actually pretty worthless without that software sticker on there. So I wanted to say that to you so that you can understand. If you look at our curriculum, we will still cover hardware. So we will still talk about the central processing unit. We will talk a bit about input and output devices, and I will show you some more devices there. We will also talk about storage devices, so different types of storage. So we'll really get into that. And then we'll also start talking about software. And we will talk a bit about the operating system and about applications and system development. And we will also talk a bit about network. So there's quite a bit that we're going to be covering in this course. And I'm sure by the end of the course, you will really be blessed and you will know much more than you know now, hopefully, if I do my job correctly. Okay, so today we're doing, like I said, lesson 3. hardware and software, and we're doing lesson 4, which is the revision, because lesson 4 is just a bunch of revision questions. So I'm going to handle those questions and discuss them to prepare you if you are taking either assessment in the lab or you're doing an online assessment. That revision will be preparation for you. So yes, we're talking about hardware and software. And as you can see on the screen there, you're looking at your system, like your operating system, and then you're looking at your applications, like application like Microsoft Word, application like CorelDRAW, application like Photoshop, or anything like that is an application that you load. And then you've got your system, which is your operating system, and we'll talk about that a bit later more. But say, for instance, Windows 10. When you boot up your system, a lot of people get extremely confused, and I'm probably going to say this a few times so that we can discuss it, but a lot of people get confused when it comes to Word and Excel and those things, because they think it's part of Windows. A lot of customers, even today when they phone me, they will say to me, yeah, but the laptop has Windows on when it's sent to us. So I say, yes, the laptops do come out with the operating system, which is Windows 10 Home or Pro, but you are probably referring to the Office. So you're referring to Microsoft Office, which is a third party or separate application you have to buy. And if you want Word and Excel and PowerPoint and possibly Microsoft Outlook to use for your emails, you will need to have that application installed. Either buy a license for the machine, and we'll talk about licensing in a later lecture. Buy a license for each machine, or buy Office 365, which is an annual subscription. And you have some options with Office 365. I've just installed for a client Office 365 on 2 computers, and they paid a once-off amount, and they're getting multiple licenses. So that particular Office has 6 licenses, which they can load on 6 devices. I actually have the same. I have Office 365, so I've got Microsoft Office on my desktop. I've got it on my laptop. Plus, the other day I started using it on my iPad. So it's actually Macintosh or iOS in this case compatible. So now I have Office on my laptop. And to give you an idea, from a software perspective, and we will talk a bit about this throughout the course, so don't worry about it too much. Don't feel that you need to know everything right now. But from a operating system perspective, we've actually got we've got the Microsoft, and we've got the Windows 10. But I can also now, with a feature that's available in Windows 10 and in Office 365, I can actually combine a SkyDrive, so I have cloud storage. But I mean, we will talk about those things at a later stage. Let me not get sidetracked here. Let's get back to our lecture for today so we can finish that up. So hardware is any physical part of the computer, such as a monitor, keyboard, mouse, CD, DVD drive, DVD-ROM, CD DVD-ROM, or printer, or anything else. Anything that you can touch, basically. Software consists of programs that allow you to use the computer, such as the operating system, games, that a lot of people love games, and then database management software, if you have a database, word processing, spreadsheets, applications, ECT. So you can touch hardware, but you cannot touch software. You can't touch the physical software. Yes, you can touch the software disk, but that's technically speaking, that software disk is actually hardware, because it's a physical disk that you're going to put, but the installation folder, as it installs on your drive and it expands and the exe file runs and installs, that is software. You can't touch that, but you can surely not use your computer without that, so you do need that. So that is something that's important that we have to know for this lesson. Then also we talk about information technology, and which is quite an old term that was replaced with ICT, information communications technology. Just is an all-embracing term referring to the storage, processing, and transfer of information using electronic means. The term IT has more recently been upgraded. So, because of the fact that a lot of the companies, and you will notice this when you get calls from call centers and people, a lot of the companies are using voice over IP. So they're using a technology that they actually talk over the internet. So where you would normally send data over the internet, access websites and send emails and receive emails and that sort of thing, share photos, share videos, share anything over the internet. Now we are talking over the internet. We are using IP telephones, which is a bit of a, I would say more advanced telephone that allows you to communicate between two of these telephones or telephone systems, which is not, it's PBX now, it's not PABX. Public branch exchange it used to be, but now it's now actually a voice over IP telephone systems. Not everybody has these, but they are very, very popular and used as a cost saving measure. So a lot of people use them because in a lot of cases, if you have your own VoIP server, if you have your own voice over IP service, you can actually have branch-to-branch communication for free. So imagine having a store or having 800 stores and communicating with all of them over the internet. So you've got your internet lines in any event, and then you communicate, and that is where the term has broadened to ICT. So you will see, although we still mention IT in the course, we only mention it as, for retrospective purposes. It's not really a term that's used anymore. I also got you this definition of ICT. Information and communications technology is an extended term for information technology for IT, which stresses the role of unified communications. Unified meaning that it can actually happen over a single or multiple DSL, ADSL lines, any form of connection that the clients have, and the integration of telecommunications, as I said, telephone lines and wireless signals, computers, as well as the necessary enterprise software, middleware, storage, and audiovisual systems, which enables users to access, store, transmit, and manipulate information. So it's quite a wide term, but it is expected, if you are passing the course, that you at least know what the term ICT means, and that you can actually design an applicable scenario where you would say, okay, I'm looking at ICT now. I've got a computer, maybe 3 computers that are networked with the server. They all connect to a router that's connecting to the internet, and then also I've got a phone system that connects to that same router, and that allows us to communicate out, and I've got a voice over IP provider which supplies me a VoIP account so that I can make phone calls and receive phone calls via the internet. There's a great amount of advantages to that. The other advantage is that you can sometimes use a single ADSL line, and this again, it's just interest sake. You can use a single ADSL line and split that up, and you can actually have 4 phone lines, 4 phone numbers on that single line, which means that you're not paying line rentals. So a lot of companies that say I have to have 10 lines and they have to pay for each line, with voice over IP, they can reduce the cost because they're only paying the line for the internet connection, and then they're using that connection to load 4 lines or 5 lines on there. Plus, there's also a cost saving because it's not phoning local telecoms company to local telecoms company, or to maybe cell phones, and the VoIP provider. If the larger companies they provide their own VoIP service, but if you are actually renting a VoIP line or a VoIP service, their costs are normally between 30 and 50% less than you would pay for your normal telecoms. And again, I'm giving you this information. It's 10 minutes of your life that I'm adding. some value. So maybe you need it, maybe you don't need it, but it's not part of the course. You don't have to worry about that in terms of the course, because we won't be discussing that. So the self-test for this section, for lesson 3, when we're talking about hardware and software, is pretty simple. There's not a lot you have to know here. What is the difference between hardware and software? And that is pretty easy. I mean, hardware is anything you can touch. All of the equipment that you have that you can touch around your computer, and then it says you give 2 examples of hardware. So I mean, you can give your screen, you can give your mouse, your keyboard, and 2 examples of software. I mean, there you can use Microsoft Office, or you can use your operating system, Windows 10, or any other software for that matter. Even your antivirus software is software. So then we go to the revision section, which is lesson 4, and now we're going to have to sort of just look back a bit at what we learned, and we have to cover, if we can just go to our manual again, we have to cover that section there, which is section 1. So the questions that I'm going to be discussing with you now under lesson 4, the revision section, is to cover these. And what you need to do is you need to try and answer them before you take the assessment, so that you know that you are adequately prepared for the assessment. So going back to the questions, what does the term PC stand for? Can you remember what the term PC means? And if you can't remember, you have to go back to the previous lessons and look. But what does the term PC stand for? PC, personal computer. What do you understand by the term hardware and software? We've just discussed that. And then what does the term ICT refer to? Information communications technology. You must look at that and make sure you understand what that refers to. And even if you get asked maybe a few questions around that, you need to be able to do that. Describe 3 different types of computers. Can you now at this stage, after you've done lesson 1, 2, and 3, can you describe 3 types of computers? It's actually pretty easy. You can look in your pocket. You probably have one of them, and then you've got another one which is a tablet based, and then you've got your standard laptops, you've got your desktop, you've got your network machines, which is basically a PC, but it's just networked, and then you've got your servers and your mainframes. So you can easily mention quite a few of those. Then list the main components of a PC. Now, you might not be able to do this right off the flash, like easily, but let me just give you some information on that. And what I normally do when I'm building a PC, and I'm not just talking about the inside of the computer, but because this question actually refers to if they use the word components, I would say it actually refers to inside, but looking at the answers, they do accept the outside peripherals as well. But let's say, what are the components of a PC? I normally look at it sort of with logic. So I look at how I would build a computer, and that means I go and I look at the motherboard, which is the base board that goes into your system. I just want to see if I can get some pictures open for you maybe, and move you just to display 2, but I don't think display 2 is going to work now, so we won't be able to do that. I think I changed that. Unfortunately, I did change that, so I won't be able to show you there. But I will show you in the upcoming lectures. Okay, so we will get to that. But I normally look at it like the motherboard, and then I picture the board building the computer. So I've got the case, first of all, the ATX case. I open the case. The case is on the desk, so then I remember, okay, there's a case. In the case, I've got a power supply. Now, I know this. I will show you these things in the coming lectures, but just so I know I've got the power supply. I know that I install then a DVD-ROM or DVD writer. I know that I install a hard drive, which is separate in the case. So I've got the DVD writer, the hard drive in the case. Then the main board, on the motherboard, it gets the CPU, the central processor, and it also gets the RAM, which I just showed you how to take that out of a laptop. It just slots into the main board on the motherboard. So that's how I sort of remember when I'm building a PC or somebody's asking me for a quote, even after years and years, I still go back to actually assembling a PC in my mind to actually specify that PC. Then there's other peripherals that you can add, like graphics cards and stuff like that. We will chat about that. But when you go and buy a computer one day and you must make decisions on buying it, you're going to be looking at, well, a lot of users don't, but first of all, you're going to be looking at the power supply wattage, because if you're building a high-end computer, it's better to have a higher power supply wattage, and also the power supply needs to have certain power plugs to support certain peripherals in your case. So you're going to be looking at the case. A lot of people like a smart case with glass and everything. Then you're going to be looking at the board, and just a little tip, and I'll show you this again in upcoming lectures. The board size, you get a full ATX board that has more expansion slots and more capacity, so you pay a bit more but you get the bigger boards. Then you get the micro ATX switch, which is a small board. So that's fine for business PCs. But if you wanted to build a gamer's PC, or you wanted to build a PC that you wanted to expand a lot later, then that might not work for you. Then you've got your central processing unit, and we'll talk about that in the next lecture. But just for now, so that we can start off knowing something, let's just talk about Intel, for instance. Intel has a Celeron CPU, which is their entry-level CPU. It's always been around. Currently, even the Celeron has 2 cores, and they run at gigahertz, but we'll talk about that in the coming lecture. And then they have a dual core, which is up from the Celeron. Then they have the i3, the i5, and the i7. The i7 is the top of the range CPU that they currently have. And they also have the CPU in a few flavors. And what's different is the amount of threads, the speed of the CPU, and the amount of cores. How many cores does the CPU have? Now, to ask yourself the question, why would I want, for instance, an i7 rather than a Celeron or a dual core? The answer is, in most cases, it's about multitasking. If you're running numerous tasks and you're doing video editing, takes a lot of threads, and that will put a lot of pressure on your CPU. So that is when you have to consider those things. But the question that we're asking here in our lecture for today is, we must list the main components of the PC. And the main components of the PC, as far as I'm concerned, is the case, the power supply, which I see is not necessarily in the curriculum, but the case, the power supply, the motherboard, the CPU, the RAM, and the hard drive, and the DVD writer or the Blu-ray writer. That's the main components, if I'm talking about components on the inside of the case. The next question that we have is what types of removable storage devices can be used. Also, again, oversharing, but an interesting one is, obviously you get your removable storage would mean like a USB drive. I normally have a few of them. I have a USB hard drive, which is a hard drive, and that's actually got a spinning motor like a standard hard drive would have. But then also you have what is known as flash drives, and I'm sure you have some of those lying around because they've become fairly cost effective and cheap. It's got a USB, you put it into your computer and you can store on that. So that is removable, and they come in various shapes and sizes. I mean, they as big as 256 gigs already, and even 512. The standards are 32 and 64 gigs that people are using now, but that's your flash drive. If we talk about removable storage, we're talking about flash drives, we're talking about external hard drives, normally connecting via USB universal serial bus. Remember I showed you what the USB cable looks like, and it's probably the one that you will use the most for your printers, for your scanners, for your webcams, for everything. So you've got your USB external drives. Then you also have a device that's called a NAS, network access storage, and that actually plugs into your network. So if you've got, like I showed you in the previous lecture, if you've got like 10 computers and they're all linked with cable to a switch, as the computers are plugged in that switch with a RJ45 cable, which looks like a telephone cable, just slightly bigger, then this NAS device is also plugged in there, and then all the users can actually, all the users that you provide access can store to that, which will also be seen as removable storage, but I would say probably technically we will call that network storage. And that in a sense, in a practical business, we've actually started replacing a lot of our file servers. Remember I spoke about servers or mainframes, and we spoke about those types of computers, and we said that sometimes they're used to store data, but which means that the server has to have an operating system, a network operating system. It has to be on, switched on, it has to consume power, all of that. So a lot of clients and a lot of companies have now moved to the point of using network storage, central storage. And I'm not even talking about cloud storage yet. We will talk about that as we go forward, but I don't want to confuse the issue. For this purpose of this chapter and closing off this section, we have to define the term PC. We have to understand hardware and software. We have to know what the term ICT refers to. We have to describe 3 different types of computers. We have to list the main components of a computer, and we have to just say what types of removable storage can be used. And then we were talking about flash drives and external drives. And then the last one, what do you understand by the term peripheral devices? And the term technically means actually that these devices are external. So they are your printers and your external devices. So scanners, printers, those sort of things that you can say is your peripheral devices. The components are the inside devices, inside your computer. As we go through storage, we will talk about hard drives and sizes and how you measure that size. As we go through memory, we will talk about random access memory, the running memory. Remember that I showed you in this laptop, it has 2 types of memory. The one is permanent memory, where you store your files, that's your hard drive, and then your running memory, which is the little chip I took out, that's your RAM. So we will talk about CPU, central processing unit, and we will talk about RAM, and we will talk about your permanent storage. So we will get to those aspects in the near future. And as we are also repeating, I would say, it's going to be exciting, because the next section that we're going to discuss is section 2, and there we're actually going to talk about hardware. Look, this has been honestly an overview, so we've just started getting you into it, but whatever we said there, we will probably repeat again. So don't get too worried if I've been confusing you. I know this has been a long lecture, and I know these have been long lectures, but it's worthwhile for you and for me to know this, because it's really going to remove the fear totally. We're going to stop fearing when we look at our computers, when we engage with IT professionals, when we go and buy computers, or when we have to upgrade our computers, or when we have to discuss things. We're not going to feel that we don't know what we're talking about, or that somebody's talking in a different language, because we're going to know what RAM means. We're going to know what CPU means. We're going to know what hard drives are, and what screens are, and what resolution and all of that we're going to know. So that makes it exciting to actually take the time. I mean, we spend so much time with other stuff, we might as well spend a bit of time here. So the next section we're going to talk section 2. It's going to be hardware. We're going to kick off with lesson 5, and there I'm going to talk about the central processing unit, the CPU, and I'll give you some information to help you actually retain the knowledge. Then we're going to talk in lesson 6 about input devices, and then in lesson 7 we're going to talk about output devices, and I've already mentioned a bit about it, but we're going to discuss it in detail, and then we're going to do the revision. So thanks for watching, and I hope this has been educational and that you've learned something, and I look forward to seeing you. You can see my little emoji there. I look forward to seeing you in lesson 5, when we start discussing the central processing unit. God bless.